So today we're going to put the finishing touches on our Yukon. We're going to fix some of the maintenance stuff that needs to be done on this, as well as some of the stuff that the past techs haven't been able to do properly, all the way back to the guys on the assembly line. I'll let you know how much time I have in this, and how a job like this is profitable. Even though I don't consider this a big one, some of you guys do. So the first thing we're going to do is put our moldings on. I'll let these sit out in the sun a little too long, kind of like trying to put a wet noodle on the side of a car, but I'll take that any day over trying to put moldings on a car that's 40 degrees. Pull off our manufacturer molding alignment system. We're going to put our nameplates on. I just use the L to space it out from the other side. Put our two-sided tape on there and put them on. We'll put the molding on the front door. Didn't write the letters underneath, so it was sheer luck that I got it to say Yukon. Pull off our OEM nameplate alignment system. Now we're going to do some maintenance work. Lower ball joints on this thing are worn out. I could have done it when I changed the frame, but I didn't have them and I wanted to get it done. Not a big deal to take it apart again. Unbolt the caliper and bracket. So to hang the caliper, I just use old bungee cord ends. When bungee cords break, I save little metal brackets. They make nice hangers for calipers. Take our ABS wire off. Unbolt our drive axle. Take the rotor off. We're also going to change the brakes and grease everything up while we're here. Now we can unbolt the upper ball joint. None of this is from the accident. This is just normal wear and tear. But when I sell a car, I like to make sure the new owner has nothing to do but change the oil and put gas in it for as long as possible. Unbolt the lower ball joint. Leave that nut on there a little bit. Knock everything loose. Let it drop down on the nut. Now we can take it off. Slide everything out of our way. We're going to bungee cord the drive axle out of the way, but it comes with a hanger, so we'll just leave it there. Now we could press these ball joints out, but why? It's more fun to smash them out. Relieves tension. This is actually my favorite part. I win! Now we'll use a ball joint press to press our new ones in. We're going to hammer the new ones in. We don't want to destroy those. Yes, it's a snap-on ball joint press. I spent the money because they told me it was indestructible. I took that as a personal challenge and proceeded to destroy it on the second use. So I've since learned to put a little oil on it. It has a grease fitting, but the grease is thick and holds metal shavings, and that's what destroys it. Put our snap ring back on. And put our knuckle back in. Slide the drive axle in a little bit. Leave us enough room to get it on the lower ball joint and slide it up and in all at the same time. Put our nut on the bottom to hold it. Put our drive axle nut on. And put our upper control arm back in. Tighten up our lower ball joint. Tighten up our upper ball joint. Put our ABS wires back in. Now onto the driver's side. Take the tie rod end out. Unbolt the caliper and bracket. Take the tie rod end off first, that way we don't have to worry about turning the wheels. Makes it easy to work on. Rack and pinion can stay in place while we turn the wheels back and forth to make our life easy. Hang the caliper out of the way with our patented caliper hanger. Take the rotor off. Take our ABS wire off. I don't have to take it off this last bracket because it does go with the knuckle, but I like to leave myself as much slack as possible in case it gets snagged on something. It only takes a couple seconds to take it off, so. Unbolt our drive axle. Push the drive axle in. Now we can unbolt the upper ball joint. Unbolt the lower ball joint. Leave that nut on there a little bit. Knock everything loose. Let it drop down on the nut. Now we can take it off. Slide everything out of our way. Move the drive axle out of the way. That's what's wrong with the ball joint. That's why we're changing it. See you, Mr. Spotty. Hammer the ball joint out. I win! We can press our new one in there. A little bit of lube. Put our snap ring back on. Move our drive axle into place. We can slide our drive axle into our knuckle. And slide the ball joint on. Put our nut on the bottom to hold it up. Check and make sure the camera's getting all this. Put the upper ball joint in. Throw the nut on the upper ball joint. Put the drive axle nut on. We haven't tightened anything up yet. Now we'll put our ABS wire in. Now we can tighten everything up. Line up the hole in the ball joint with our castle nut so we can put the cotter pin in. Tighten up the upper ball joint. Now we're going to put the grease fitting in. Put this in last because when you're putting the knuckle on, the drive axle needs to drop all the way down. And that grease fitting, even though it's only a 1/2 inch tall, gets in the way. so it's easier to put on afterwards. Put the rotor back on. And put our brake caliper back on. Bolt the caliper bracket in. Now we can unbolt the caliper itself. Push the pistons back in so we get the brake caliper off. And slide the brake pads out. Then push the pistons back in. Put a link down below if you want to pick up one of those tools. Now we gotta seat the boots for the pistons and the calipers so they're not all bunched up. Just pry them up a little bit so you can let the air out of them. And then they'll pop back into place. Change our hardware for our brake pads. Normally I'd have to clean up the caliper brackets, but these were pretty clean. Brake pads slid nice and easy. Not like usual brake jobs around here. Tighten up our caliper. Put our tie rod end in. Tighten it up. And then grease everything. Now it's time to change the oil. Every car I rebuild gets an oil change. Even though this one said it didn't need it, that oil looks pretty black. It needs it. It doesn't hurt to change it. Cheap insurance. Take the filter off. The last guy must have used a 1-inch impact to put it on. And since it was an AC Delco filter, it was probably put on at the dealer. Probably the same guy that put the trans in and left all the brackets loose. Tighten up the oil plug. If this were Jiffy Lube, I'd go get the 1-inch impact and tighten it down. Sorry, Jiffy Lube guys. So now because we changed all the tires and I didn't know where the tire sensors were, we're going to relearn the system. This one's pretty easy. You just press both lock and unlock on the key fob and it enters the system. And then you go around with the TPMS scanner. And if you don't know which tire to do, the marker lights on each corner light up for whatever tire you're supposed to be doing at the time. If you don't have that scanner, you can also do it by letting the air out of the tires or filling up the tires. It takes a little longer that way. But it is a way to do it if you don't want to buy the expensive tool. And there are cheaper ones. This is a snap-on one. So I put about 50 miles on the Yukon since I finished it. And I just started getting a service StabiliTrak light and a service traction system light. I probably don't need a scanner to tell you what's wrong with it. But we're going to hook up our Topdon from the last video just to see if it'll read the codes that I need. Since the traction control light is on, it's probably a stored code in the ABS. So we'll read it and see what we find. It's a C0710, which is a steering wheel position signal, or basically a bad steering wheel position sensor. It goes on the bottom of the column. It's so common, I ordered it before I even checked the codes. It usually goes bad on any car that's a hard hit or the driver's wheel airbag deploys. So we got to change that out. Should get rid of our lights. So our steering wheel position sensor just slides off the end of the steering shaft, but in order to get that off, we have to take off a little plastic cover, which is covered by a metal cover, and the metal cover bolts on top of the steering column. So we have to disconnect the steering column from the steering shaft and get that bracket off. So we're going to have to pull the steering column out. Not all the way, just pull it down. So we'll pull the knee bolster panel off. Pull our vent out of the bottom. And then take the bracket out underneath. And turn the steering wheel so we can unbolt the steering shaft. Straighten our steering wheel back up. Now we can unbolt the steering column. Set it down on the seat and that lower dash piece. So now we can get that metal bracket at the top. It's held on by 3 screws. It also holds the shifter cable, so we're not going to be able to take it all the way out. We're just going to take it loose and lift it up. That metal bracket there. I'm going to slide off the cover for the steering wheel angle sensor. And then the sensor itself. So that's the little guy. It only goes in one way. Slide it back on the column. And we'll put our cover back over it. And we'll put our metal cover back on the top. Now there's 2 spacers on the 2 back bolts that go between the steering column and the bracket underneath the dash. So I set them up there. I'll try and get it on the studs without them falling out. I actually got it on the first try. I am as amazed as you are. Sometimes it helps to tape them in there, but I figured I'd try my luck. Should go buy a lottery ticket today now. Bolt our steering column back in. Turn the steering wheel so we can bolt our steering shaft in. You don't have to do that. You can fight with it. But if it's in that position, the bolt is facing down and it's really easy to get to. We'll put our bracket back underneath. Now we're going to reroute this trailer wire. The way GM had it, it was dangling down underneath the dash so you could see it. Looked really bad and annoyed me. So I'm going to move it so it's tucked up under the dash. Must have been built on a Friday. Put the knee bolster in place. Screw it in. Slim finally showed up today. I don't know where he's been. Put our side panel back on the dash. Put our little air duct underneath. Now we're going to program our key fobs. We got that extra fob with the parts truck, so we're going to use it pretty easy. Scroll to it in the menu, hit the check mark, hold lock and unlock. You have to do all the key fobs at the same time. Takes a second, it'll beep twice, and you're done. Check and make sure everything works. And now on to fixing what the factory didn't do. We're going to rust proof the rest of the truck. Pull our door panel off. Pull back our water barrier carefully so we don't tear it. Trying to make things better, not worse. Spray our cavity wax down in the seams. And put it all back together. Slide the door panel down and clip it all in. Bolts in the grab handle and the door handle. Put our covers back in. Put our door lock back on. Now put the cover in the grab handle. And move on to the front door. Pull our door lock off. Pull the covers off. The grab handle and door handle. Somebody's been here before. Somebody forgot to put the screws back in. Pull the grab handle off. Disconnect all the wires and the door handle. So the J-nut for the door handle bolt fell down, and whoever put this door together the last time couldn't get the bolt to thread into anything and just left it out. So if you squeeze the J-nut a little bit with a pair of pliers, it'll stay in the hole it's supposed to stay in, and then we'll go get a new bolt out of our parts truck. Put our cavity wax in. Pull the speaker out so we get the cavity wax on the front edge. Now we put the door panel back on. Plug all the wires in, door handle. Slide the door panel down. Clip it in. Put all of our bolts back in it. Put our door lock back on. Now we're going to rust proof the bottom of the truck. We pulled all of our plugs out to access the rockers. And we're going to use some of the drain holes for where the plugs can't get me. That cavity wax is worth. It's the best stuff I've used. And no, they're not even paying me to say that. Get a good coating on the rockers and the bottoms of the quarters. None of this has anything to do with the accident. Trying to make sure that the car's going to last. Put all of our plugs back in. Now to get to the top of the quarter over the wheel well. I was able to get in this side. There's a little access hole for the jack. There's some holes in the quarter, so I was able to get the wand in there and coat it real good. Because of the rear AC, the passenger side was not so friendly. So I pulled the trim panel back a little bit. Was able to get in underneath the seatbelt and coat everything. The trim panel back on, bolt our seatbelt in, put our door gasket back on. Now we're going to move on to the fenders. Plenty of holes in these. Just make sure you coat it all over the tops of the wheel arches. That's usually where they rust. And down at the bottom. Passenger side's a little more tricky. There are plenty of holes in there. They're just filled with things. Took the airbags out, it'd be real easy to get to, but I didn't want to. So it's kind of clean. I've been driving it for a little while, so I've kind of trashed the inside of it a little bit. It'll have to be cleaned one more time before the new owner takes it, but the title's still not back yet, so. Looks much better than before. Throw some new floor mats in it. Hopefully this will help keep it from turning back into a Yuckon. So the right fender, the right headlight, the frame, the right taillight, the driver's airbag, and all the brackets for the fender came off of our parts truck. This is the reason I bought the parts truck, because what I paid for that truck is what all this stuff was going to cost me used. Now by buying a whole truck, I also got a lot of bonuses. I got the front bumper cover, which I never figure on because usually the auctions destroy them. I got all the splash shields. I got the bumper brackets. I got the headsets and remotes for the DVD player. I got the cover for the seatbelt on the passenger side. I got some missing bolts. I got an overflow bottle and lots of leftover stuff I can sell. The only used parts that I bought was one wheel. The only new parts that I bought was the left front bumper bracket, 4 tires, all the maintenance stuff, brakes and ball joints and all that good stuff, and the steering wheel angle sensor. So the GMC emblem peeling is really annoying me. I'm going to sand it down and touch it up. I'm going to put some flat black paint on it, make it look a little better. Just call me Picasso. So when it dries, it'll be flat black and look just like the rest of it. So now you guys want to know how much time I have in this thing. Well, to make it drivable, get it off the trailer, I spent about 2 hours on it. That was in the first video. In the second video, we took the parts car apart. So to pull the body and the motor, the seats, get everything ready, pull the front end off, that took me about 4 hours. In the third and fourth video, that was all the same day. That's when we swapped the frames, put the body back on, put the fender on, and tore it all down. to get it ready for paint. That was 14 hours. That also included some time to put the other car back together so I could roll it around. We put the frame back underneath the black truck just so it was easier for me to move in my storage yard. In video 5, we reassembled the truck. That took about 3 hours. And in this video, put all little finishing touches on it, do all the maintenance work, as well as rust proof it. That took 3 hours, for a grand total of 26 hours, if my math is correct. The body and paint guys had about 10 hours, straightening the dents and painting everything. So I had a total of 36 hours invested in this truck. Now, you guys wonder, how do I make any money investing only 36 hours when the insurance company totaled it? Well, the labor for this job would have paid over 65 hours, not including any of the maintenance or additional stuff that I did. Not to mention, a lot of what the insurance figures is new parts or used parts with markup. I waited a while, I found used parts at a good price, and I used used parts where they would have used new parts. I had the seatbelts rebuilt, they would have figured new ones. So all that adds up to a lot of savings. I figure all my rebuilds add insurance repair times, so it's profitable there for me. If I do it faster, it's even more profitable. I haven't found one yet. The repair time goes over what the insurance company would have paid. There's that darn noise again. I think I've learned from the last one. Always check the console. We got our Topdon scanner in there. Extra bolts. We know what to do with these. What else do we have in here? Oh, a dictionary. See what it has to say. A motor. Something that imparts or produces motion. A device that converts any form of energy into mechanical energy. An internal combustion engine, driven by or having a motor. Of or for motor vehicles. I don't know, maybe this dictionary is wrong. Oh, what else do we have in here? Another dictionary. Motor. An internal combustion engine, especially one operating on gasoline. It's almost like this truck is powered by a motor. So the terms can be interchanged. It is an engine, it's also a motor. I mean, maybe you guys are right, and the dictionaries and Google is wrong. Yeah, that's probably totally it. Thanks for playing What's in My Console. So like the video if you found it interesting. Share it if you think somebody else might. Dislike the video if you still are insisting that I, as well as the dictionaries and Google, are wrong about the definition of a motor. Subscribe if you want to expand your vocabulary any further. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.